I decided that they had to do a slideshow or a PowerPoint presentation on a golf animal.
All right, guys, so here we go.
I know all children, first thing they'll do is pick the humpback whale. So what I did was I listed a variety of animals that they might not be familiar with. I asked them to each select one animal that they didn't know very much about and to do research on that golf animal. They had to come up with 12 to 15 very, very interesting facts. They had to acquire a deep overall understanding of their animal along with these 12 to 15 facts. I checked the facts before they used them in their slideshow, and I told them if they didn't knock my socks off with being interesting, then I would send them back to do more research. So that worked well. They each came up with their own PowerPoint presentation, and if you go to the Green Central School website, you can see a lot of their slideshows. They're on the first page. This one that you're seeing is just dissecting squid, but that was another project we did. After the slideshows, I had the students create a three-dimensional paper animal. They used the projector and projected their animal onto a wall. They had two large pieces of paper where they outlined and then cut out their animal. I had them paint their animals while they were flat, both sides. And then what they had to do was staple the animal together all around the edges and then stuff it with balls of newspaper and then staple it shut. We hung them all from the ceiling, so the entire ceiling of our room was full of golf animals. The next thing we did was we created a wall of outlines of all the animals. They had to find the dimensions of the largest animal of whichever one they were researching, and we drew the outlines on a wall so that students could compare sizes of animals, and it was everything from microscopic plankton, which all the way to the largest animal we had in the room represented last year was the lion's mane jellyfish, which was huge. The other thing we did was we did dissect squid, we dissected clams. When the Maine Shellfish Company always sends free squid, they're wonderful to deal with. They always send too many squid, so I had a few mothers in the past years that would make, we would cut up the squid in the classroom and fry up calamari for the children. A lot of students have never eaten squid, and majority of the students had never even eaten any type of shellfish before, which amazes me. But we wrote factual poetry on their golf animal, and at the end of their slideshow they had to present their poetry. We also wrote a Gulf of Maine song, which we sang to the entire school. We put up paper murals all over the room. Again, we would project them with our laptops and projectors. I would have the students outline them, and then we would work in shifts on taking turns painting murals, everything from the Portland headlight to Fort Popham to beach scenes with people relaxing with umbrellas, lobster boats and lobster traps in the water. So the entire room, between the 3D animals on the ceiling and all the walls being displayed with ocean scenes. I then went to the grocery store and to the health food store and got every type of Gulf of Maine food I could find, from cans of tuna fish to spicy little sheets of kelp that are snacking foods, so the kids got to try and enjoy a lot of items that we get from our golf. We put back up a minute with the squid, we had microscopes and we put the chromatophores, which were the skin of the squid underneath the microscopes, and the kids could see all the colors of the camouflage it uses. We took the backbone out of the squid, which looks like a small feather pen, and they would dip it in the ink sacs of the squid and write with it. Every student just has a ball doing that activity. We shared our slideshows and, of course, our artwork with every classroom in the school. They come in at certain shifts, and we present it to every school, which gives the kids an opportunity to become very good at public speaking. We also we wrote computer collages of the words from their research that we created. I would collect articles that I would find in the newspaper, such as, I've clipped out the one on the lobster's shell disease that's going on. I clipped that out this week. From the catch limits being imposed on the fishermen, and we have discussions and debates in the class on, there's something almost every single day about the Gulf of Maine. And probably our last project is a family night where they share their slideshows, they share their artwork, their poetry, and I think that's usually about the last activity that we do. So all the areas, the arts, science, technology, music, writing, and public speaking were covered after we left. So those are some of the projects I did with my kids. In science, we have to study the oceans, and this field trip allows us to go that much further. So do you have any questions? It sounds like a lot, but I do one piece at a time, and it just all comes together. So the children absolutely love it. This picture you're looking at is the mother who came in to make calamari.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for Nancy? All right. Well, if there's no questions for Nancy, we'll ask Nancy to stay on for a little bit, and we'll have Ruth talk about what she did, and then we can open up for questions at the end.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Good morning. I'm Ruth Wilson. I teach 6th grade at Oxford Elementary, which is a pre-K through 6 school. And this year, my role is slightly different. I'll be a STEM teacher instead of inclusive for everything. And many of the things that I do in my classroom, I don't necessarily do the same things every year, but it's very similar to what Nancy did, a lot of the same ideas. Couple things that I forgot to say that we did when she was talking about food. I do a mystery food where the kids have to use their 5 senses, and they do the seaweed snack from the salad. That's always either a hit or you got the kids gagging in class, but it's a good writing because I have them close their eyes and use the sense of smell and touch first. We love Gulf of Maine, and we start off the beginning of the school year right off the bat. Our marine animal, we focused on marine animals because our science curriculum was primarily biodiversity in the ocean with a focus on animal classification. We branch out a little bit into other things, and we try to do the whole year on everything related to the watersheds. So the first activity that I did last year, even before the kids came, for their lockers, I took pictures of nudibranchs, and those were their locker magnets, and I didn't tell them what they were, and I made it a challenge to see if they could figure out, you know, what they were, because they were all the same animal, just different forms, and they had a ball with that. Every day somebody came in with a new thing. It took them about a month to figure out what they were. We start off day one of school. I do water experiments with the penny drops and paper clips, and just to get them hooked into science the first day. They have a ball. They have very little knowledge when they come in, especially water properties, at least in our district. So it's a really good starting point. Another thing I usually do in the first week or two of school is I gather up water from all the different lakes in the area, and we do pond scum investigations and look at the macroinvertebrates and look at the water quality indicators to see whether they come from a healthy lake, or sometimes I take it out of one of the drainage ditches, which is a pretty good indicator of not healthy. Very easy to do. We have very limited access to technology in our school. So if the lab is up and running, I give them the Who's George, which is all about them figuring out it's George's bank. This is very challenging, but it actually gets them more focused on their research skills, because their Google search skills and all that are pretty minimal. They have a great idea, a great time trying to come up with ideas on that one, and it's good to get them familiar with the software again. And this one is just your standard lost at sea survival. You know, what things do you take with you, and it gives good discussions about salt water and what's good and what's not if you're stuck in the middle of the ocean. And then we also do something similar with a live animal. We get lobsters. This started when we were business partners with Hannaford, so we get a couple lobsters, and the kids do scientific drawings of the lobsters. And it's amazing how many of them have never really seen them. I guess they don't go grocery shopping with their parents. So after they do the scientific drawings, we actually let them taste it. And like Nancy said, most of the kids have never, ever tasted seafood. It's amazing to me that they live in a state known for lobsters and they've never had one. So they really enjoy that activity. Another thing that I do to get our vocabulary and language arts piece up and running is ocean vocabulary word sorts. Let me see if I can go in. And I just pick every year different random words that have to do with the ocean, a lot of which they don't know, so they work in groups and they try to come up with their categories where they think it would fit in, and then they have discussions in front of class. You know, it involves using dictionaries and multiple meaning words. Let's see. After we go to Gulf of Maine, I usually assign some random animal that they won't know about, and they do this activity, fish food, and we create one giant food web. So that gets them thinking about different animals that they're not familiar with, which will set them up for their marine animal research. So this is a little mini research to get their minds open to other animals that might be more interesting to learn about. I also do poetry and songs. So we start off with some songs that are provided for them to sing. We do a lot of singing in my class, which they all know my singing voice is really bad, so I can use it as classroom management sometimes. And after they've sang some songs and written some poems, then they create their own songs and they present them to the other 6th grade classes and to their parents. They love that activity. Let's see, oops. We are fortunate to participate in the Sea program up at Acadia National Park. When I was at a different school, we found any way we could to raise money to get a bus and go to the tide pools and investigate there. The next thing we do, our big project, is marine animal research, where they do pick one animal and they spend about 3 or 4 weeks researching and writing a report. And they also make, you know, I think you can see the animals hanging up top, so they create similar models to what Nancy was talking about, and we invite the whole school and parents, and it's a tradition at Oxford Elementary, something that the other classes come in and they have they take notes, and they look forward to as a big opportunity when they get to 6th grade. So what else? Yeah. I couldn't find the Shoppers World fish foldables we did. When we were partners with Hannaford, one year I went and looked at all the fish that they had for sale there, and I assigned each student one of those fish to research. So they did a foldable similar to these, but in the middle they had a picture. They did a scientific drawing of their animal, and then they had one side they had to find a recipe on the internet to how to cook the fish, and then they had all their fish facts. And we put them on display at the grocery store. This particular foldable that we did one year was just another way instead of a research report to present information. I have also, we did one year a video, iMovie at the Oyster Winfrey Show, and the kids spent a lot of time. This took from September to December, but it was really good for writing, where they learned how to write tongue-in-cheek. And it was a really good exercise to pair really strong writers with weaker ones, and the kids still remember their information. So I have. After, like way at the end of the year, we switched to watersheds in general. And I don't know if people are familiar about this resource, Linus Loon, which starts from the lakes and ponds and goes all the way to the ocean. It's a free online resource if you just Google it. It has comprehension questions with it. We either try to go to the USM, the Southern Maine Water Festival, if we get accepted or not, but we also do our own water festival. That's a homegrown. It's at a local camp. It's called Agassiz Village Environmental Education Day, and we do some guided imagery. We do lots of Project Wet activities. We watch the trout being released into Thompson Lake. It's another favorite activity. And then we take advantage of our lake environmental associations, and we get sponsored from Thompson Lake Environmental Association to help pay to go on the Hey You cruise, which is out of Naples, where the kids go out on the Songa River Queen and do all different experiments and technology, and they get to yell at the landowners that are staged on the shore that are doing things wrong. So they get to yell, "Hey you," so it's a favorite that they get to yell at people. And I think that's it.
Unmute everybody so that we can open it up for questions. We're going to see how this goes.
Okay.
It's going to be an experiment.
Yeah, I couldn't get the video of the Oyster Winfrey Show to show up, but it was a puppet show. They made into an iMovie. It was really cute.
Great. All right, so if anyone has questions, you can speak into your mic or you can type them into the chat box. So Sonia would like to know how either of you might connect this into social studies. Any ideas?
A couple times I've used literature, historical fiction, to connect it with the main history, like Seaward. I think it's Seaward Bound. I've also used it with atlas work and our nation's history atlas with the early explorers and why people came across to the oceans. And I do a little bit of the industry sometimes.
I think for mostly current event issues, I keep track of what's happening on the news, newspapers, Time magazines, anything dealing with the ocean. And sometimes I have students do debates over issues, especially catch limits, and talk about concerns and problems of, you know, even when you go out and you're trying to motor your boat through all the, you know, the lobster buoys, and we just take things that are in the newspaper and that we find and share in the classroom, anything having to do with the Gulf.
I also put up I have a bulletin board that I slap up all the newspaper articles I find. And in addition to talking about them, I used to point out multiple meaning words and strange ways they phrase things and just put little thought bubbles to make them think about it.
Thank you. Mary's also interested, Ruth, in the cost for the Naples cruise that you did.
I think it was up to 500 or 600. They do mostly schools served by Lake Environmental Agency over in Bridgeton. We sort of slide in because some of the schools in our district are served by them, and they actually come into classrooms and do lessons on watersheds in classrooms. They don't come into our school because we aren't on the Long Lake, we aren't on the Crooked River watershed, but they do go into other schools that are served by them. I think if you have local lake associations, you could find volunteers to come out and do things, because a lot of the things they do are like Secchi disc readings, phosphorus, they do temperature readings for the thermocline. It's pretty, I think it would be pretty simple to put together if you had access to some boat that could hold your kids.
Great. Are there any other questions for Ruth and Nancy before we let them back to enjoying this beautiful day? I think that we're all set, and we can, if I have any other questions, Nancy and Ruth, I'll email them to you from the teachers, connect you guys via email, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, and they can contact me anytime.
Great. Thank you both very much.
Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.